$84.84. Is there any questions, comments?
Nope.
And we had some payments coming out for 1 South Broadway and for the clearing down at CSX. Those were the only ones that looked like anything out of the norm to me. Any question from the public? Question from the board? Do I have a motion to accept the payment of the claims?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next, we have the blight elimination claims. We have $8,000 in the blight claims. Looks like it's one bill.
That is actually a continuation on the bill for Merritt and Sons. If you remember last time.
That's right,
We
yeah.
were still
Waiting on
waiting
money.
on money.
Mhm.
So we got a little bit more money, so we're paying him a little bit more, and we still have a balance on that. But we're expecting more money to come in.
Do you know how much more is on that balance after this
The
8,000?
balance should be on the sheet right there. I feel like it's another 7,000, but I could be making up numbers at this point in the day.
Oh, leaves a balance of 9,900.
9,000, there you go.
Okay. All right. Is there any questions from the board?
Did Merritt and him now have any issues with that?
No.
I mean, Merritt would like to get paid his full balance.
Yeah,
but-
obviously, he wishes we had more money, but he understands that working with the state
Yeah.
is a slow, drawn-out process.
Yeah,
Sure.
Just not screaming real loud yet.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure it's aggravating to not get all the money, but like the clerk said, we can only pay out from that account. It's the only thing we're allowed to pay it out of, so. Any questions from the public? Anything else from the board? All right, now a motion to accept the payment of the blight claims.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next, we have the city attorney report. Is there anything to report this time, Mr. Kern?
Not in regards to public works and safety.
Okay. Fair enough. We will move on to communications. Under communications, we have the electrical test for Michael Thomas Lopez. And it looks like he got a score of 86 on his test. Mr. Anderson and I were looking at it. I think there was some of this might have been even just like a different terminology used for some same thing. So at least one answer was that. Would you like to take a look?
I trust you too.
Okay. The stuff on the code was, he did very well on that. There's the local sheets where they got the diagrams of locally what our utilities would like to see, and that's where it looks like he got the most answers wrong, but like I said, it's nothing crazy, so.
Any concerns you two have looking over it?
No, they won't turn it on until it's right, so.
Yeah.
There you
It's,
go.
yeah. Most of it's pretty good, and like I said, with the code stuff being right, that's, the local rules is where you got some of it wrong. So obviously he knows in general the theory. So, any question from the public? Any other comments, question from the board? Do I have a motion to accept the electrical permit for, or electrical license for Michael Thomas Lopez?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We'll move on to unfinished business. Under unfinished business, we had a request to cut down a tree at 331 Boulevard Street. And I know, Steve, you had stopped by today. And if there's anything that you wanted to mention about that, or?
I don't see where it needs to be cut down. I think it's just maintenance. They just need there's some small branches that need to be taken care of, but I don't feel that there's anything that the city should have to do in that. The tree's not dying. It's just got a few dead branches that are hanging off. And I think his concern more was the fact that it's running into a sewer line, and he keeps having to have road rooter come in there, but I don't think with what we would be doing, it would help that in any way, even if we cut it down.
Yeah, because it's the roots that seems to be really concerned about.
But I didn't see anything that I felt was any kind of safety issue.
Right.
And I talked to him, and I explained to him that it is his responsibility to maintain, and any dead branches to be picked up and cleaned up.
Yeah, and I think at least we've been pretty consistent with, as far as responsibilities on the tree lawn. It's clear in the ordinances, all the maintenance in a tree lawn is the homeowner's responsibility. And that's consistently been the city's position. We do run into the situations where there's dead trees that pose a public hazard, and we're willing to go in and take care of a tree that poses a public safety issue. So, like Steve said, it's not a dead tree, it's a maintenance nuisance, but maintenance nuisances aren't what the city is willing to take on as responsibility.
Has the sewer ever mentioned, or
Utilities?
yes, that place?
Mhm.
Have they ever mentioned that it's a problematic area, or they have concerns about it?
But it's still his responsibility regardless until it hits the
Yeah.
tap out in the road.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know that I've really ever heard of the utilities mentioning infiltration of roots into their systems. It's typically getting infiltrated into the homeowner's system,
Okay.
from what I understand. Is there any questions from the public? Any comment from the public? Is there any other discussion from the board?
Thank you for going out and taking
No,
a
no
look and
problem.
talking to that gentleman.
If there's nothing further, do I have a motion? I hate to assume what the motion would be from the board, so would the board like to
I
make
mean,
a
obviously, we're
motion?
going to deny, I mean, I don't
Okay.
feel that it needs to be taken down. I don't think that it's anything that we should be doing.
Okay, so is there a motion to deny the request, Mr. Anderson?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the motion is denied. All right, moving on to new business. We have a request for clarification on terms agreed to in the FOP contract of the Board of Works. Chief Meeks, I don't know if you or Mr. Feller would like to speak to that?
Okay. I can speak as well. Sure. Sure.
Come on, Matt, I talk to Mike all the time.
I guess I'm interested to know exactly what the changes are, which part. We've had a couple of conversations.
Yeah, the part that I believe that we're talking about at this point is the vacation time. There was the point of clarification on the 2 to 4 years.
Correct. So all three of us, or all four of us know each other, so I don't know that it's necessary to introduce myself. But if you look at our contract, and it clearly is just an oversight, and it's really a matter of semantics. If you look at the vacation, the very first one, it says any of our officers with 2 to 4 years of service get 10 vacation days. How that really should have read would have been 1 through 4, because in year 0, when you hire in as a rookie police officer, you don't get any vacation for the first year that you are employed here. And I believe that may actually be a citywide policy that you don't get vacation time. So our officers would get holidays, they would get, I think, some personal days and then sick days. And I think that would all be prorated dependent upon when they come in to being employed. So the way that this really came about is, as I think it's been acknowledged in the city council meeting, the city is preparing for an audit by the State Board of Accounts. And so we have been going over, between the chief and the FOP and everybody involved at the police department, have been kind of going over everything, making sure all of our T's are crossed, all our I's are dotted. And this is one of those issues that we want just to have clarified. I think that the spirit of the agreement that we had doesn't change as a result of making this change within the contract. It's really just providing some clarification, and realistically, it's providing, I think, some security for the city as we go into this audit.
I think there might have been some,
Can I
yeah.
have you clarify that?
Sure.
The city is not necessarily going in for an audit. It was my understanding that something to do with the police department was being audited, but I have not been contacted about a,
No, I mean, I don't know of any audit. I just thought we'd said that we were probably due for an audit, are we not?
Okay.
okay, that's a clarification, because I am not, I hope that I would be the first to know, because I'd be sweating more.
And it is,
Yeah.
and it is commonplace. I mean,
Yeah.
I've worked for the police department long enough to have seen several times where the State Board of Accounts comes in, they'll pull our books essentially and look at our timesheets and our policies and procedures and those types of things to make sure that everything matches.
Right.
And we just don't want, we
Them
don't
to
want
look
there
at
to
this
be.
policy and say, why are people getting vacation
Exactly.
ahead of their
When that
scheduled
was,
time?
when obviously, I think that between the police chief, the FOP, and the Board of Works, we know that that wasn't the spirit of the agreement. We're just making sure that we get some clarification in there to provide, I guess, a level of security for the city, should
Right.
we ever encounter that.
Yeah, because the way that it's worded, it's a chart, and it has just numbers, and it's got 2 to 4 years of service, and then you get the 10 vacation days. And like you said, the rest of the city employees, they start their vacation time 1 year served, and then starting their second year, they're eligible for vacation. So I think, like you said, just to look at that, you know, a year consists of 365 days. So if you're talking about the second year, are you talking about the first day of the second year or the last day of the second year? And I think you're right. I think that the spirit of it was that the first day of your second year is when you start the eligibility of your, so 366 days.
Yeah,
into
essentially,
your
once you
employment.
have completed, once you will reach your first year of service, completed first year of service is when
Right.
your vacation would kick in. That is the spirit of the agreement.
Yeah.
We're just asking for some clarification on that.
Yeah, and actually, the clerk treasurer and I were talking about issues, I think, throughout with our terminology, because if it's not specified like that, when you talk about years of service, we run into it in other departments too, where you talk about years of service, and it can be ambiguous of, there's 365 days in that year of service. Which day did that start on? And it's, I think same thing here.
We would also ask that if it is the board's pleasure to accept and make this amendment, that this would be made retroactive for all of 2018.
Mr. Kern, if we're clarifying what was the original intent and spirit of what was passed before, do we need to make that retroactive?
I think it'd be wise, just, pass a resolution,
Just a-
amending the contract retroactive to the date it was signed to reflect that it's not the second year, but on the 366th day, the second year begins. I don't know exactly how we want to word that, but that's the intent.
Yeah.
Correct.
Did you have a suggestion for the new wording to clarify this?
I'm wondering if maybe we should put in there 0 to 1.
It would be,
That there are no vacation days, and then 1 to 4.
To exclude the first year completely.
Correct. So 0 to 1 years of service, none, 1, I guess, I'm not even sure. That's where I would have to rely on the
about
legalese of our.
366th day to the fourth year.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I was kind of thinking, is that if you just say the amount of days, that might clear it up better than talking about years.
Right, that's the
It gets tricky.
issue.
And the more you get into the details and the weeds, the trickier it gets. It seems like sometimes a very simple concept, but man, wording it to specifically delineate exactly what you mean.
We know what we mean.
Right.
We just don't know how to say what we mean.
Yeah.
Through, after the first full year of service, through the fourth full year of service is what you want, correct?
Yes.
That's the way you need to work it.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Do they automatically, after that first full year of service, do you automatically get all that vacation time, or do you start accruing it at that time?
No, you get it.
You get,
Okay.
You get 10 days.
you get 10 days.
Okay.
And then you're, as you, by our contract and by city policy, as you increase your years of service, there are increments. So when you hit your 5th year of service to the city, you get another week of vacation or another 5 days of vacation and
Is
so
that-
on until you tap out.
Is that 5th year completed or the beginning of your 5th year?
Beginning. This would be the beginning of the 5th year, I believe.
Yes, because you've ended the 4th year and you're beginning the 5th year.
Gotcha. I just want to make sure.
Sat in the office and literally drew it out on paper, because
Yeah.
sometimes I'm more of a visual person, and it gets,
It's,
It
you almost
seems
want a
simple,
chart with a
but-
timeline in there, so
right?
it's like, at this
Instead of a
point,
graph, we need a timeline.
yeah,
Yeah.
just to clarify things. The wording, going back to the wording that we'd like to see in this, I apologize, I didn't write down what Stephanie said. I don't know if that's what
So
we agree
after
to,
the
or,
first full year of service through the 4th.
And worded like
year
this,
of
or like
service.
this, or like this.
So what I've written down is 0 to 1 year, no vacation.
Mhm.
The 366 day through the end of the 4th year, the week or 10 days or whatever. And then after that, it could be the beginning of the 5th year through the end of, yeah. It's just getting started is where the confusion lies. Because your first year, you don't get any.
I think spelling it out like that, I think actually clears it up
Mhm.
really well. From 0 to this is
Right.
nothing.
Correct.
So, and that just, you know.
And you don't have to put 366 day. You can put the beginning needs to be in there of
Okay.
your second year.
okay. So we could add one bracket on the chart that says 0 to 1 years of service, 0 vacation. And then add into the next bracket,
Starting your second.
start of second year.
Through.
And by our contract. So for example, if I started, my actual hire date is June 1st. If I started on June 1st, 2018, by our contract, January 1st of 2019, I would get my 10 days in anticipation that I would be here on my anniversary date. However, by our contract, if I were to leave before my anniversary date of June 1st, I would owe the city back those vacation days if I were to have used any of them.
Well, that's tricky.
Yeah.
So it's not 366 days.
Because there you're going by a calendar day.
You're going by a calendar year as to when you actually have access to them, but you haven't theoretically
Earned them.
earned them.
The same
Only in
as
that
every
first year
contract.
is where you would have that issue.
And
Actually,
it-
it's in every anniversary year.
And is that a function of planning the vacation days for that year so that you know what vacation days guys are taking?
Quite honestly, I think it was just a matter of bookkeeping
Mhm.
for the assistant chief and the chief.
Yeah, Chief,
It is
you
somewhat about the schedule too, and I agree with what Matt's saying as well, but I think the issue you have too is if, well, we're getting ready to hire a new officer who starts Monday.
Mhm.
So a lot of people that have a lot of time on, if they schedule their vacations out, a lot of them want the Christmas season off, they want the Thanksgiving season off. You have this guy who's just starting, if we make him wait till his anniversary date of Monday next year to take his 2 weeks, he won't get a vacation. So that's why we start on January 1st of that year and say, you get any 2 weeks you want, with the hope that that officer stays through the year. And as Captain Keller spoke of, if he doesn't, then we need to try to figure out how we capture back that money of his 2 weeks that we paid him for, that he technically didn't work and didn't deserve. But
Mhm.
as he's saying, it only happens in that anniversary year, first year, 5th year, 10th year, 15th year.
Because
So that's the reason why we try to give them that on the January 1st instead of waiting until their anniversary date.
Correct, because theoretically, you could hire in the last week of December. If you were to get your vacation time the last week of December, by city policy, you have have to use your vacation time by the end of the year, otherwise you lose it, short of carrying over 5 days. So realistically, depending on where you come in the calendar year, you could
Just lose a
realistically
year.
lose your vacation, especially in that first year, or on every subsequent milestone year, if you want to call it that, your 5th, 10th, and 15th year, you would essentially end up losing your vacation that you earned.
Gotcha.
Have you ever had it in the past where somebody has moved on and had used vacation?
Not that I'm aware of, Chief, would have to speak to
Not that I've known in
that.
the past, and not in the 3 years we've been in this capacity, so.
I just wasn't sure if it was something, their last paycheck would be held if there was money owed or hours owed, or if there was something in there that protects
Right.
the city from them just not walking away with it and then come claiming their last check as well.
And again, it is in our contract, that it is written that way in our contract.
Do you know, Tish, when it comes to benefits owed back to the city, and that could be for multitude of benefits that we actually give, because vacation days aren't the only benefits the city gives
Right.
out in
So
anticipation of throughout the
I
year.
was waiting to jump in there, thank you for giving me the floor, because we ran into this problem when we deposit money into our employees' HSA accounts at the beginning of the year. It's $1,000 for a single person, $1,500 for the employee plus a dependent, or $2,000 for a family. We felt like we were putting ourselves at risk for losing a lot of money. If we're giving them $2,000 at the beginning of the year and they work until March, we've put ourselves out of a lot of money. So what my office has done, well, we're starting in 2019 to do to combat that, is we give it to them incrementally. We're now going to do a quarterly deposit into the HSA so if it's $1,000, we're doing $250 quarterly. That way, if we're out of money, or excuse me, if they leave, we're not out as much money, because the city doesn't want to get into the business of debt collection.
Do we,
You can only, you can only hold, a lot of people are not even going to have enough money on a paycheck to cover that.
Right.
And it would cost us more money than what we would be collecting to hire a debt collection services to try to get that money back.
Yeah.
So what we've decided to do is break it down into quarters.
do we have the capacity to, or like the right, the legal standing to hold the last paycheck for debts owed, like vacation days that weren't earned, or HSA deposit?
I believe legally we do, yes. We can hold a paycheck to return your uniforms if they're, city uniforms. So I believe we do have that legal capacity to do it.
Right. Not something that we've had to do as far as, to your
I have
knowledge.
held one paycheck this year to get uniforms back.
Gotcha. So we do have some safety net, I think, with,
Well, and again, it is written into our contract at the bottom of page 1. In the event an officer separates from employment due to termination or resignation prior to the date of appointment anniversary, any increased vacation days used prior to termination or resignation shall be owed back to the city of Peru.
okay.
I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
The only thing that we have found is, again, how do you collect that debt? Especially when it comes to, okay, so this is a little bit different. So we were able to hold a last paycheck for a street department fella to return his uniforms, okay? That's one thing. You get really messy when it comes to HSA, because that money is, first of all, you're taxed on it. So, and it has to be used for medical expenses. Well, if someone is paying taxes on $2,000 of HSA that we have deposited for them, and then they have to pay it back, well, that makes their W-2s all wonky. So that's, again, why that's a whole different animal, honestly.
Yeah.
Because the bank would show that as a disbursement, and as a person with an HSA, I have to be able to provide the IRS with proof that that disbursement went for
Medical
some type
expenses.
of
Right.
approved medical care.
Right. And if that check is written back to the city of Peru, the city of Peru is not technically approved medical care. So that's where that gets a little,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now that we've dived in and muddied the waters beyond.
exactly.
Far beyond what the scope of what we're doing, but it's a good discussion to have.
Right.
You know, make sure we're all clear on how everything works. Does the board have any other questions for Captain Feller?
I don't think you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Is there anything else you wanted to add, Mike? So I have written down here that we're adding in the 0 to 1 years service, 0 vacation days, and then where we have 2 to 4 years, it says start of second year through 4 years.
Okay.
Is that,
Would it be easier to just say under 1 year of service, 0 days, and 1 to 4, 10 days?
it might be easier, but will you guys come back next, in a couple months and ask for the clarification on 2 years?
We're gonna have to deal with this next month anyway.
With the,
So, I mean, we're gonna be working on 2019 in a meeting next month
negotiations you're talking about, or?
for our contract. For
Yeah.
2019, we'll be back here again. So, what do you think is best?
I think drawing a picture, if that's what's necessary, because that's, I
Right.
mean, not literally, but I think it needs to be the beginning of the second year to the end of the fourth year, as
You just put a
clear as
little chart in there.
possible.
Yeah.
1 year's, no vacation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how clear it is, but there's a chart with the number of years
Oh,
and the
yeah, I
amount of
can see all the way
vacation.
up there.
Yeah. So, but you know, with like Tishman and I were talking about in our office, you know, we always complain about the terms of service being pages and pages long, and it's like, oh, come on, it's got to be a joke. But, you know, the more you actually get into actually administrating an agreement, it's got to be that detailed, you know. So I think, yeah, you know, 2 to 4 years of service, that's the easiest way to put it in there, but obviously we got to,
We
And
have,
that
Get more
too, I think,
complicated.
it should have been just second, just an ND and subscript at the top.
so we will,
I mean, I
my
don't think there is an
suggestion is
easy-
rewriting this and getting it out to everyone before the first December's meeting and seeing if it's clear to everyone and if everyone agrees with it, you know.
that's fine with me.
Sure.
We can do that, that way that we're all on the same page and it's
Right.
written out the way that we feel like it's all clear for everyone.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't think there's going to be a quick, easy way
Right.
to write this. It's going to be something that is Byzantine
But are we
and
voting
is
to
spelled out.
just do an amendment? Is that what we're voting on? Because we're going to have to write something out for the amendment. You know,
Right. Yeah.
We're just
Midnight
doing
asphalt,
amendment.
right.
Yeah, I would say we table this until the next meeting, and we'll have it an actual written clarification that we vote on the next meeting then, if that works for everyone. Is there any other question or comment from the board?
No, I'm not gonna ask.
Any,
We're gonna leave it alone.
any questions, comment from the public? All right, we have a motion to table the police department's request for clarification on terms.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and we will
we have a late
get that
addition.
written. What's that?
Oh, I thought you were closing. We have a late addition.
Gotcha.
I'll work on getting that written with
Attorney?
Justin, yeah.
Okay. All right, and yes.
Not
we-
by myself.
And we have an addition, and where's my addition? Here we go. It's from, yeah, okay. Chief Meeks, you asked for an addition to the agenda. We'll go ahead and real quick, do I have a motion to add Chief Meeks' request to the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. You are officially added to the agenda, Mr. Meeks.
Appreciate that, thank you. The Peru Police Department has been working on trying to get some new fitness equipment. downstairs. The equipment we currently have is anywhere from 6 to about 24 years old. I can remember being a rookie and watching some of that equipment come in our door. So it's pretty old stuff. I know that Captain Feller has worked diligently trying to get us some grants to try to get some new equipment downstairs, and unfortunately those fell through, especially with the YMCA coming in. They ate up one of the grants that we were looking for to get new equipment, and that's great. It's going to be a great community thing. However, I know that Captain Feller and Mayor Greer have been in some pretty good conversation about trying to get some new equipment for the officers, trying to encourage city employees to get in a little bit better shape and stay in good condition health-wise. So with that being said, we did put it into the next budget for the next year, and it was approved, so we're looking forward to getting that equipment. But we are going to start auctioning off the equipment come December. It's due December 4th, the bids are. And so we anticipate selling all that equipment, but in the chance that all that equipment doesn't get sold, what we're looking to probably do is just go ahead and scrap whatever's there. I have seen where other towns before have presented to their town board things such as asking for something to have a zero value to it, like maybe an old bulletproof vest. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Tish, I think it's either a $750 or $1,000 threshold that you have to report all of your assets within your city. I don't know that any of that equipment, or maybe even what's going to be left combined, will total $750. But I guess what I'm asking the board is for permission to go ahead and take any existing equipment. I like what Tish said, just a sense of transparency, that so people know what we did with that equipment, that we're actually going to take it, scrap it, get the money for that, put it back into the city of Peru's general fund. And so I'm asking for permission from you folks that if any items that we have currently in this auction are not sold, I get permission from you to take that next step and scrap the items.
Gotcha. Seems to make sense to me. Is there any questions from the board
No.
on that? Okay. Any questions for Chief from the public on that? Okay. Thank you, Chief. Any comment or question from the public in general on that? Or from the board?
Are they
Okay.
closed? They haven't even opened yet.
What's that?
Sorry.
So do I have a motion to accept Chief's request for permission to scrap any equipment that is not sold in their auction?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Chief. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything else that we should, anything else to come before the board? Okay. I guess, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.